On the morning of June 22nd, 1922, roughly 50 men walked out of a strip mine in southern Illinois under a white flag. They had been promised safe conduct out of the county. Within hours, 20 of them were dead, shot in fields, hunted through timber, tied together with rope and gunned down. The men who killed them went home. Nobody was ever punished.
This is the story of the Herrin Massacre, one of the deadliest episodes of labor violence in American history. 23 men died over 2 days. But the killing itself is only part of what makes this story dark. The rest is what came before it and what came after.
In the spring of 1922, the United Mine Workers of America called a nationwide coal strike. Hundreds of thousands of miners walked off the job. In Williamson County, Illinois, where coal shaped wages, politics, and daily life, the strike shut down nearly every mine. But one operator saw an opening. William J. Lester owned the Southern Illinois Coal Company, a strip mine between Herrin and Marion. At first, local union officials allowed him to keep removing topsoil as long as he did not ship coal. But Lester was deeply in debt, and coal prices were rising fast. By mid-June, he broke the agreement. He fired his union workers, hired armed guards and replacement laborers from Chicago, and shipped 16 railroad cars of coal. Many of the replacement workers had been hired through an employment agency in Chicago. Some of them did not know they were being used as strikebreakers. One survivor later said, "I was engaged as a cook on what I was told was a steam shovel union job." They arrived to find armed guards, a fortified mine, and a county full of men who saw them as a direct threat to their families. On June 20th, United Mine Workers President John L. Lewis publicly called the replacement operation an outlaw organization. In Williamson County, that language landed like a match on dry grass. The next morning, a truck carrying guards and workers toward the mine was ambushed. Accounts differ over who fired first, but gunfire spread quickly. Armed miners and sympathizers converged on the strip mine from across the county. Hardware stores in Herrin were raided for weapons and ammunition. 2 Union miners were killed in the fighting, and a third was mortally wounded. By nightfall, the mine was surrounded. Through the night, attempts at a truce moved slowly. Sheriff Melvin Thaxton insisted he had the situation under control. He did not. Colonel Samuel Hunter, representing the state militia, told the men inside the mine to raise a white flag. A truce held until morning. Then it collapsed. On the morning of June 22nd, roughly 50 workers and guards surrendered under a promise of safe passage. They laid down their weapons. They were tied together in groups and marched toward Herrin. Almost immediately, the promise fell apart. Superintendent C.K. McDowell, who had a wooden leg and could not keep pace, was pulled aside and shot. The rest were driven into fields, into timber, along roads toward the cemetery on the edge of town. Survivors described the march in pieces. One man said he was told to run, and when he did, rifles cracked behind him. 6 men, tied together with 3/4-inch rope, were killed with a single volley near the cemetery. A man hiding under a tree offered $25 and a watch to be spared. He was told to run and was shot as he did. An Associated Press reporter who reached the scene found wounded men lying in the road while hundreds of townspeople laughed at their pleas for water. A young woman with a baby in her arms put her foot on one of the wounded and said she would see him in hell before she gave him any. By the end of June 22nd, 23 men were dead. 3 were Union miners killed during the fighting at the mine. 20 were workers, guards, and company employees killed after the surrender.
Many of the dead were laid out in a vacant store in Herrin. Townspeople filed past the bodies, men, women, children. The local attitude, as one reporter described it, was simple. They got what they deserved. A grand jury returned 214 indictments. Not one resulted in a conviction. Juries drawn from the same county, the same communities, the same families, refused to punish anyone. The remaining cases were dropped. The message was clear. This was local business, and outsiders had no say in it.
For decades, the massacre became something Herrin carried in silence. Families who lived through it did not talk about it. The victims, who had no one to claim them, were buried in unmarked graves in the Potter's Field section of Herrin City Cemetery. Their names faded. The ground settled over them. It was not until 2010 that a team of researchers began using forensic mapping to locate the unmarked burial sites. In 2015, Herrin placed a memorial in the cemetery, a stone with the names of the men who had been buried there without ceremony, without record, for almost a century. The Herrin Massacre reveals something specific about what humans are capable of when loyalty, economic desperation, and group identity converge. Every side had reasons. Lester broke a promise to the Union. The Union accepted escalating coercion until a promise of safe conduct became meaningless. The town watched, participated, and then closed ranks. And the courts confirmed what everyone already understood. In Williamson County, the victims were the wrong kind of people. What makes this story dark is not only the killing. It is that the killing made sense to the people who did it. And for nearly a century, the silence that followed made sense too.